Hey, my name is Liam. I'm 25, and I work the night shift as an electrical maintenance tech at a private hospital in Seattle. It's not the kind of job people dream about, but it suits me. Quiet hallways, humming machines, no small talk with coworkers, just me, my toolbox, and the occasional flicker of a faulty light. I like the dark. It's honest. No one pretends to be anything they're not when the lights are low. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, a 10-minute bus ride from the hospital. The place is small, the walls thin, the radiator clanks like it's got something to say, but it's mine. No roommates, no girlfriend, no plans to keep alive. My mom raised me alone after my dad bailed when I was 6, and I guess I got used to keeping things simple. I dropped out of community college after a year. Couldn't see the point when I could make decent money fixing things. The last girl I dated said I was too closed off. She wasn't wrong. She left for California, chasing some tech startup dream. I didn't stop her. Most nights follow the same routine. Clock in at 10, check the generators, replace fuses, swap out ballasts in the fluorescent lights that buzz like dying insects. The hospital never sleeps, but it's calmer after hours. Fewer doctors, fewer visitors, just the steady beep of monitors and the occasional cry from a patient who can't rest. I know every corner of the place. The storage room on 4 with the leaky pipe, the ER backup generator that groans when it kicks on, the stairwell where the motion sensor light always flickers twice before staying lit. It was a Tuesday in early November when everything went sideways. The rain was coming down hard, the kind that makes the city feel like it's underwater. I was in the 4th floor storage room, crouched under a panel, replacing a voltage regulator that had been acting up for weeks. The air smelled of dust and antiseptic, the fluorescent bulb overhead humming loud enough to drown out the storm. My hands were steady, muscle memory from 1,000 jobs like this, when a pain hit my chest, sharp, sudden like someone had driven a spike through my ribs. I dropped the screwdriver, gasped, and tried to stand. The room spun, my knees buckled, and I stumbled out into the hallway, one hand clutching my shirt, the other reaching for the wall. The pain was everywhere now, radiating down my arms, squeezing my lungs. I tried to call out, but my voice came out a wheeze. The hallway stretched forever, cold and white, the emergency exit sign glowing red at the far end. I took one step, then another, before my legs gave out. I hit the floor hard, the tile ice cold against my cheek. I don't know how long I lay there, seconds, maybe a minute. The world was fading, sounds muffled like I was underwater. Then I heard footsteps, quick, purposeful. A shadow fell over me and hands gripped my shoulders. "Stay with me," a voice said, calm but urgent. "Can you hear me? Look at me." I forced my eyes open. A woman knelt beside me. Her face close, blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Blue scrubs streaked with faint red smudges, dried blood from some earlier emergency. Her hands were steady, one cradling my head with the sleeve of her white coat, the other pressing fingers to my neck. Her eyes were green, sharp, but there was something soft in them too. Not pity, just presence. "Breathe," she said. "Slow, in through your nose. You're okay, you're safe." I tried to nod, but the pain pinned me down. She shouted something, words I couldn't make out, and more footsteps came running. Voices overlapped, hands lifted me onto a gurney. Wheels rattled against the tile. The woman stayed close, her hand on my arm, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I'm right here. Stay with me." Her name was Elena. I didn't know it then, but I'd learn it soon enough. She was the night shift charge nurse, 36 years old, the one everyone relied on when things went bad. I didn't know that either. All I knew was her voice, steady as a heartbeat, and the way she didn't let go until the ER doors swung shut behind us. The pain started to ease as they hooked me up to monitors, pumped something cold into my vein. The ceiling lights were too bright, the beeping too loud. I remember her face above me, checking the IV, her brow furrowed, but her hands sure. "You're doing fine," she said. And I believed her. I don't know why. I just did. I passed out again sometime after that. The last thing I felt was her hand brushing my wrist, checking my pulse, like she was anchoring me to the world. When I woke up, the pain was a dull ache. The room quieter. Machines hummed. A curtain separated me from the next bed. The clock on the wall said 3:17 a.m. I was alive, and somehow that felt like more than I'd expected. The first thing I noticed when I came to was the smell. Sterile, sharp, like bleach mixed with something metallic. The second was the steady beep of a monitor, counting my heartbeats like it was keeping score. My chest still ached, a heavy pressure that made every breath feel earned, but the spike was gone. I was in a bed, rails up, an IV dripping into my arm. The curtain around me was pulled halfway, letting in a sliver of fluorescent light from the ER beyond. I tried to sit up, but a hand pressed gently on my shoulder. "Easy," a voice said. "You're not going anywhere yet." Elena. She was still in her scrubs, hair a little messier now, a stethoscope draped around her neck. Her eyes were tired but alert, scanning the monitor before settling on me. "Welcome back, Liam. How's the pain?" I swallowed, my throat dry. "Better?" Like a bruise instead of a knife. She nodded, jotting something on a chart. "Good. We gave you fluids and a mild painkiller. Your vitals are stabilizing. Could be a stress-induced spasm, maybe tied to dehydration or lack of sleep. We'll run more tests in the morning, but you're out of the woods." I stared at the ceiling, trying to process. "I was just fixing a regulator, then—" "Nothing happens," she said, her voice calm but not dismissive. "Your body's got a way of telling you when it's had enough. You work nights, right? Long shifts." "Yeah," I said. "Most weeks 5 or 6. She raised an eyebrow. "That'll do it. You need rest, water, and probably a day off. Doctor's orders." I managed a weak smile. "I don't really do days off." "You do now." She adjusted the IV line, her fingers brushing my wrist as she checked the tape. It was clinical, professional, but there was something in the way she moved. Careful, like she was handling something fragile, not the equipment. Me. I didn't know what to say. People didn't touch me like that. Not since my mom used to check for fevers. When I was a kid, nurses were efficient, detached, but Elena was different. She looked at me like I was a person, not just a chart. "You stayed," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. She paused, her hand still on my wrist. "Someone had to make sure you didn't pull some hero stunt and rip out your IV." Her tone was light, but her eyes softened. "You scared us for a minute there." "Us?" I wondered who else, but it didn't matter. She was here. That was enough. The next few hours were a blur of tests, blood draws, and EKG questions I answered half asleep. Elena came and went, checking on other patients, but she always returned. She'd adjust my pillow, ask if I needed water, or just stand there for a second, like she was making sure I was still breathing. I caught myself watching her, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the way her scrubs shifted when she moved. She was older than me, maybe mid-30s, with faint lines around her eyes that said she'd seen things. But there was a warmth to her, a quiet strength that made the room feel less cold. By morning, the doctor confirmed it was likely a panic attack or muscle spasm, nothing heart-related. "Go home, rest, eat something that isn't from a vending machine," he said, "and cut back on the overtime." I was discharged by noon, given a packet of papers and a bottle of pills I probably wouldn't take. The hospital was busier now. Daylight streaming through the windows, nurses and doctors rushing past. I stood in the lobby, my work boots scuffed, my jacket slung over my arm, feeling out of place. I didn't want to leave. Not yet. I found her at the nurse's station on the 3rd floor, typing something into a computer. Her badge read Elena M., charge nurse. I cleared my throat. "Hey." She looked up, surprise flickering across her face before she smiled. "Liam, you're upright." "That's progress." "Yeah, well, your team's good at their job." I shifted my weight, my hands stuffed in my pockets. "I wanted to say thanks for last night. You didn't have to stay." She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "It's my job." "Not all of it," I said. "You didn't have to, I don't know, care like that." Her smile faded, but not in a bad way. More like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're welcome," she said softly. "Get some rest, okay?" I nodded, but I didn't move. The words were stuck in my throat, heavy and clumsy. I'd never been good at this. Talking, asking, wanting something more than the next paycheck. But I heard myself say, Elena, if I asked you to get coffee sometime to say thanks properly, would that be weird? She didn't answer right away. Her eyes searched mine like she was weighing something. You're still a patient, she said, her tone teasing but firm. Hospital policy, no flirting with the staff. My face burned. Right, sorry. But she cut in, her voice lower. Once you're officially discharged and not hooked up to my monitors, I might consider it. I blinked, caught off guard. Yeah? She smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made the fluorescent lights feel warmer. Yeah, now go home, Liam. Doctor's orders. I left the hospital with a stupid grin I couldn't shake. The rain had stopped, the Seattle air damp and cool, the city buzzing with midday traffic. My apartment felt emptier than usual when I got back. The same cluttered table, the same humming fridge. I crashed on the couch, still in my clothes, and slept for 14 hours straight. 3 days later, I was back at work, lighter shifts per the doctor's note. The hospital felt different now. Every corner reminded me of her. The storage room where I'd collapsed, the ER bed, the nurse's station. I kept an eye out, hoping for a glimpse. But Elena was on nights, and I was easing back into days. I didn't see her until I did. I was in the lobby, grabbing a coffee from the vending machine, when I heard her voice behind me. You're supposed to be taking it easy. I turned, and there she was, off duty for once, in jeans and a gray sweater, a takeaway cup in her hand. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders, and she looked less like a nurse and more like someone I wanted to know. Discharged and everything, I said, holding up my wrist like it was proof. No monitors. She laughed, a soft sound that made my chest feel light. You owe me that coffee. We met the next day at a small shop a few blocks from the hospital, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and baristas who knew everyone's order. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, steam rising from her cup. I slid into the seat across from her, my hands wrapped around a black coffee I didn't really want. So, I said, this is me saying thanks properly. You don't need to thank me, she said, but she was smiling. It's what I do. Not like that, I said. You saw me. Not a lot of people do. She tilted her head, studying me. You'd be surprised how many people feel invisible, even the ones who seem fine. We talked for an hour, maybe more. She told me about her shifts, the patients who stayed with her, the kid with asthma who drew her a picture, the old man who sang Sinatra when he thought no one was listening. She mentioned her mom in Tacoma, early onset dementia, how she drove out every weekend to sit with her, even when her mom didn't always know who she was. I listened, really listened, and it hit me how little I'd ever shared with anyone. I told her about my mom, how she'd worked double shifts to keep me in shoes that fit, about dropping out, about fixing things because it was the one thing I was good at. I didn't mean to say so much, but with Elena, it felt easy, like I didn't have to prove anything. When we left, the sky was turning pink over the sound. She paused at the door. This was nice, she said, unexpected. You hate them? I said, unexpected's good. She smiled again, and I knew I was in trouble. Not the bad kind, the kind that makes you want to show up, even when you're not sure what for. The weeks after that first coffee slipped by like pages in a book I didn't want to end. I eased back into my shifts. Still mostly days, but I found excuses to linger near the hospital after hours. A loose outlet in the lobby, a flickering exit sign on the third floor. Anything that might cross paths with the night crew, with Elena. I told myself it was just to say hi, to check in, but the truth was simpler. I wanted to see her smile again. She worked the graveyard shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 nights on, 3 off. I learned her schedule the way I learned circuit diagrams, by heart. Some nights I'd catch her in the break room, grabbing coffee between rounds, her scrubs wrinkled, hair escaping her ponytail. She'd look up, surprised but not unhappy, and we'd talk for 5 minutes, 10 if the floor was quiet. Nothing big, just the weather. A patient who'd made her laugh, the way the vending machine ate her dollar again. But those minutes were the best part of my day. One Thursday, the rain came back hard, the kind that turned sidewalks into rivers and made the city lights blur. I'd finished my shift early, a rare slow day, and instead of heading home, I waited under the awning outside the staff entrance. I had an umbrella, a flimsy one I'd grabbed from the lost and found, and a thermos of coffee I'd brewed too strong. I didn't have a plan, just a feeling. At 7:12, the door swung open, and there she was. Elena, bundled in a navy raincoat, her badge still clipped to the collar. She stopped when she saw me, water dripping from her hood. "Liam," her voice carried over the rain, "what are you doing out here?" I held up the thermos. "Thought you might need this. Long night." She stared for a second, then laughed. The sound warm despite the cold. "You're insane. It's pouring." "Insane's my middle name," I said, stepping closer to share the umbrella. "Come on, I'll walk you to your car." She didn't argue. We fell into step, the umbrella barely covering us both, our shoulders brushing as we navigated puddles. The hospital parking lot was half empty, sodium lights casting everything in a sickly orange glow. Her car was a dented Honda Civic, practical like her. "You didn't have to do this," she said, unlocking the door. "I wanted to." I hesitated, then added, "I came to see if you smiled today." She paused, one hand on the door handle. The rain drummed on the umbrella, loud in the quiet. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." She looked at me, really looked, her eyes catching the light. Then she smiled. Not the polite one she gave patience, but something real, soft around the edges. "I did," she said, "thanks to you." My chest did that thing again. Not pain this time, just a tightness that felt like hope. I handed her the thermos. "For the drive. It's strong, don't say I didn't warn you." She took it, her fingers brushing mine. "You're trouble, Liam." "Good trouble," I said. She laughed again, slid into the driver's seat, and rolled down the window. "Get out of the rain before you catch something." I watched her pull away, taillights disappearing into the downpour, and stood there longer than I should have, getting soaked. After that, it became a thing. Not every night. Her schedule was brutal, and mine wasn't much better. But enough. I'd show up with coffee, or she'd text me when she had a break, and we'd meet in the lobby or the empty cafeteria. We talked about everything and nothing. She told me about her mom, how the dementia had started small, forgetting keys, repeating stories, until one day she didn't recognize Elena at all. "I keep visiting," she said, "because even if she doesn't know me, I know her." I told her about my mom, how she'd worked herself into the ground waitressing to keep me fed, how I sent her money every month, even though she swore she didn't need it. "She's stubborn," I said, "thinks I should be saving for a house or something." "You will," Elena said, like it was a fact. I didn't believe her, but I liked that she did. The more we talked, the more I saw her. Not just the nurse, the one everyone leaned on, but the woman underneath. She loved old jazz, the kind my grandpa used to play. She read medical journals for fun, but kept a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby in her locker. She'd been engaged once, years ago, to a doctor who couldn't handle her mom's illness. He said it was too much, she told me one night, stirring sugar into her coffee. I said it was my life. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just listened. One night the rain was lighter, more mist than downpour. I waited by the staff entrance again, this time with 2 sandwiches from the deli down the block. Elena came out, looking exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, but she smiled when she saw me. "You're going to get tired of this," she said, taking the sandwich. "Never." We sat on a bench under the awning, eating in silence for a while. The city was quiet, just the hum of traffic and the occasional siren. She leaned back, closing her eyes. "Rough one?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "Lost a patient. Young guy, overdose. We did everything." She trailed off, her voice tight. I didn't say anything, just reached over and took her hand. She let me. Her fingers were cold, but she squeezed back. "You can't save everyone," I said finally. "I know." She opened her eyes, looking at me. "But it doesn't make it easier." We sat like that, hands linked, the mist settling on our coats. I wanted to kiss her then, but I didn't. It wasn't the moment. Instead, I said, "You ever let anyone take care of you?" She laughed, but it was sad. "Not really. People assume because I'm older, because I'm the nurse, I don't need it." "How old are you anyway?" I asked, half teasing. She raised an eyebrow. "Bold." 36. 11 years, I said, doing the math. Not that much. She pulled her hand away, but gently. It's enough. You're 25, Liam. You've got your whole life. I've got a baggage. I've got baggage too, I said. Just smaller. Carry on. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You deserve someone who's not tired all the time. Someone who doesn't come with a sick mom and a job that breaks her heart some nights. I don't want someone else, I said. The words came out stronger than I meant, but I didn't take them back. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. You don't know what you're saying. I do. I stood, shoving my hands in my pockets. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I like being around you. That's it. She stood too, closer now, the space between us small. You're sweet, she said. Too sweet for your own good. I wanted to argue, but she reached up, brushing a raindrop from my cheek with her thumb. Her touch lingered, warm against my skin. Go home, Liam, she said softly. Get some sleep. I nodded, but as I walked away, I felt her watching me. The rain picked up again, soaking through my jacket, but I didn't care. I'd meant every word. The next time I saw her, she was distant. Not cold, just careful. She'd smile, but it was the professional one, the one she gave doctors and families. I didn't push. I kept showing up, kept bringing coffee, kept listening. But I felt the shift, like she'd built a wall I couldn't see over. One night I waited by her car again. She came out later than usual, her steps slow, her face drawn. When she saw me, she stopped. Liam, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. Okay. She leaned against the car, arms crossed. This, whatever it is, can't happen. Why not? Because I'm 36. You're 25. Because I've got a life that's complicated and you're just starting yours. Because she stopped, her voice cracking. Because if you get close and I let you, I won't be able to step back and you'll regret it. I won't, I said. You don't know that. She looked away, her eyes on the wet pavement. I've been down this road. I know how it ends. I stepped closer, not touching her, just close enough for her to hear me over the rain. I'm not him, whoever he was. I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm just asking you to let me be part of it. She didn't answer, just stood there, the rain soaking us both. Then she got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing in the dark, the echo of her words ringing in my ears. I gave her space, not because I wanted to, but because I knew pushing would only make her pull harder. The next week was quiet. No late-night coffees, no texts, no glimpses of her in the hallway. I stuck to my shifts, fixed what needed fixing, and went home to an apartment that felt emptier than before. I told myself it was fine. She'd made her choice. But every time I passed the nurse's station, I looked for her anyway. I didn't see her for 7 days. 7 days of second-guessing every word I'd said, every moment I'd let myself hope. I started writing her a note, something about how I didn't need her to be anything but herself. But I crumpled it up. Words on paper felt too small for what I wanted to say. Then I remembered something she'd told me once, offhand, while we were eating sandwiches on that bench. She'd been talking about a patient who'd left her a thank you card after a rough shift. People don't write enough, she'd said. Not to others, not to themselves. It stuck with me. I went to the little stationery shop near Pike Place, the one with the hand-bound journals and pens that cost more than my lunch. I picked out a simple fountain pen, black with a silver clip, nothing flashy. Then I wrote a note on a plain card. You've written thank yous for so many people. Write one for yourself. You deserve it. Liam. I didn't sign it with anything else. No pressure, no plea. I dropped it at the front desk the next morning, addressed to Elena M. Chardonnay. The receptionist raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. I didn't expect a reply. I told myself it was enough that she'd get it, that maybe it would make her smile on a bad day. I went back to work, kept my head down, fixed a breaker in the ICU, replaced a ballast in the maternity ward. Life went on. A week later, I was on the 3rd floor, up on a ladder, swapping out a burned-out bulb in the hallway. The hospital was quiet for once. Just the hum of the vending machine and the distant murmur of a TV in a patient's room. I was screwing in the new bulb when I heard footsteps, soft, deliberate. Liam, I looked down. Elena stood below, arms crossed, a folded piece of paper in her hand. Her scrubs were clean. Her hair tied back, but her eyes were different, softer, uncertain. Hey, I said, climbing down slow, my heart already racing. Everything okay? She didn't answer right away, just held out the paper. Read this. I took it, unfolded it carefully. It was a single sheet, her handwriting neat but hurried, like she'd written it in a rush and didn't look back. I deserve to be loved, even when I think I'm past the age for it. I deserve someone who sees me, not the years or the scars. I deserve to smile without waiting for permission. Thank you for reminding me. Elena. I read it twice, my throat tight. When I looked up, she was watching me, her expression unreadable. You meant this, she said. Not a question. Every word. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the faint coffee on her breath. I've been scared, she said, her voice low. Scared of what people would say. Scared of dragging you into my mess, my mom, my shifts, my everything. But you didn't run. You just stayed. I'm not going anywhere, I said. She smiled then, small but real, the kind that reached her eyes. I know we didn't kiss. Not there. Not with the hallway camera blinking red in the corner. But she reached out, her fingers brushing mine, and I laced them together like it was the most natural thing in the world. We stood like that for a minute, maybe two, the hospital quiet around us. I can't promise it'll be easy, she said finally. I don't want easy, I said. I want you. She squeezed my hand, then let go, but not before I saw the shift, the wall coming down brick by brick. Coffee tomorrow, she asked. My treat, only if you let me pay next time. She laughed, the sound light and free. We'll see. The next few weeks were a slow build. We kept it quiet. No big announcements, no hand-holding in the cafeteria, but we found our rhythm. She'd text me when her break lined up with my lunch. I'd leave a sandwich on her station when she was swamped. We met at the coffee shop, or sometimes just sat in her car in the parking lot, talking until the windows fogged. She took me to Tacoma one Sunday. Her mom's place was a small, assisted living facility, clean but sterile, the kind of place that smelled like disinfectant and regret. Her mom, Grace, was in a wheelchair, her hair white and thin, her eyes cloudy. She didn't know who Elena was half the time, but when Elena introduced me as a friend from work, Grace smiled and patted my hand. You're a good boy, she said. Take care of my girl. I will, I promised, and Elena's eyes glistened as she looked away. We didn't talk about the future. Not yet. We just lived in the moments. Her laughing at my terrible parallel parking, me learning how she took her coffee, black, no sugar, but a splash of oat milk when she was feeling fancy. I fixed the flickering light in her apartment's hallway. She left a spare key under the mat, just in case. One night after a 12-hour shift for her and a double for me, we ended up on her couch, takeout containers scattered on the coffee table. She was curled against my side, her head on my shoulder, some old jazz playing low from her phone. You know, she said, her voice sleepy, I used to think love was something you found when you were young, like it had an expiration date. I ran my fingers through her hair. And now I think it's something you choose every day. I kissed the top of her head. I choose you. She didn't say anything, just pressed closer, her hand finding mine. We fell asleep like that. The city quiet outside, the rain a soft lullaby against the windows. The hospital noticed eventually. A nurse saw us leaving together. Another caught me waiting by her car. Whispers followed, but they were kind, curious, not cruel. Elena didn't hide it anymore. She'd introduced me as Liam from maintenance, but her smile gave us away. I didn't need a label, didn't need promises carved in stone. I had her hand in mine, her laugh in my ears, her key in my pocket. And for the first time, I wasn't just fixing things. I was building something. A year slipped, Abhishek, the way good ones do. Quiet, steady, full of small things that add up to everything. I still worked a maintenance at the hospital, still fixed what broke, but my shifts felt lighter now. Elena was still the night shift charge nurse, still the one everyone turned to when the world tilted, but she came home to me. Not every night, her schedule was brutal, and some weeks we barely saw each other awake. But enough. Enough to make the apartment on Capitol Hill feel less like a crash pad and more like ours. We didn't make a big deal of it. No moving trucks, no joint lease. She just started leaving things. A toothbrush, a sweater, a stack of medical journals on the coffee table. I cleared a drawer, then another. One morning I found her coffee mug in the sink next to mine, and I smiled like an idiot for the rest of the day. Weekends were for Tacoma. I'd drive her old Honda, still dented, still reliable, down I-5, the Puget Sound glittering on one side, evergreens thick on the other. Grace's memory came and went like radio static, but she always lit up when she saw Elena. Some days she called her honey. Some days she thought she was her sister. It didn't matter. We'd sit in the common room, Elena reading from a dog-eared paperback while I fixed whatever needed fixing. A wobbly chair, a flickering lamp. Grace would watch me with cloudy eyes and say, "You're a good boy. You take care of my girl." "I do," I'd say, and Elena would look away, her cheeks pink. One Sunday in early spring, the cherry blossoms were starting to bud along the hospital's front walk. I was swapping out a breaker in the ER when Elena found me, her scrubs swapped for jeans and a light jacket, her shift over. "Got plans?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Was going to fix the leaky faucet at home," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Unless you've got a better offer." She smiled, the kind that still caught me off guard. "Mom's place. She asked about you yesterday, said the nice young man with the tools should come back." I laughed. Grace knows how to flatter a guy. We drove out in comfortable silence, her hand resting on my knee. The facility was quiet, the hallway smelling of lemon cleaner and toast. Grace was in her room, staring out the window at a bird feeder swaying in the breeze. When she saw us, her face brightened. "There's my girl," she said, reaching for Elena. Then she looked at me, squinting. "And you're the boyfriend, aren't you?" Elena froze, her eyes wide. I felt my face heat up, but I didn't look away. "I hope so," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Grace patted the bed beside us. "Sit, both of you." We did. Elena took her mom's hand and I sat on the other side, close enough that our shoulders touched. Grace looked between us, her gaze sharp for a moment, like the fog had lifted. "You make her happy," she said to me. "I can tell. She smiles different now." Elena's eyes glistened, but she didn't speak. I swallowed hard. "She makes me happy too." Grace nodded, satisfied. "Good. That's all a mother wants." We stayed until the sun dipped low, reading from Anne of Green Gables because it was Grace's favorite when she was a girl. When we left, Elena was quiet in the car, her hand tight in mine. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, then laughed, soft and shaky. "She hasn't been that clear in months. And she called you my boyfriend." I grinned. "Guess I'm official now." She leaned over the console, kissing my cheek. "You've been official for a while." Back in Seattle, life kept its rhythm. I built a small bookshelf for her journals, sanded it smooth in the hospital parking lot during my lunch break. She left notes in my toolbox. "Don't forget to eat," or "You fix the light in 3B, my hero." We cooked together when we could, burning pasta more often than not, laughing over the smoke alarm. Some nights she'd fall asleep on the couch mid-sentence, her head on my chest, and I'd carry her to bed, careful not to wake her. We didn't talk about marriage or kids or 5-year plans. Didn't need to. What we had was enough. Mornings with coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Evenings walking along the waterfront, her hand in mine like it belonged there. The hospital gossiped, but it was kind gossip, the kind that came with smiles. Even the doctor started nodding at me in the halls, like I'd earned a place. One evening in May, the sky clear and warm, we sat on the apartment's tiny balcony. Takeout tacos balanced on our knees, the city lights flickering below, the Space Needle glowing in the distance. Elena leaned against me, her hair tickling my neck. "You ever think about that night?" she asked. "When you collapsed?" "All the time," I said. "Best, worst night of my life." She laughed. You were so pale. I thought you were going to code on me. You saved me, I said, not just from the pain, from everything before. She was quiet for a moment, then turned to face me. You saved me too. I was so tired of being the strong one. You let me just be. I kissed her then, slow and sure, the kind of kiss that didn't need words. When we pulled apart, she smiled. The smile I'd been chasing since that first night, bright and unguarded, like spring after a long winter. She'd saved me when I collapsed, but it was her smile I wanted to thank every day for the rest of my life. We didn't need rings or vows to know what we had. We chose each other again and again in the small things. The coffee left on the counter, the light fixed without asking, the hand held in the dark. Love wasn't a grand gesture. It was this. Her head on my shoulder, the city quiet below us, the future unwritten but ours. And that was more than enough. In the sterile hum of a Seattle hospital, Liam and Elena's story carves a profound lesson into our hearts. Love is built in the quiet moments of presence, not in grand gestures, but in the choice to stay when life falters. Liam, a solitary maintenance tech, collapsed under the weight of a grueling routine, only to be anchored by Elena, a charge nurse whose steady hand and voice, "I'm right here, stay with me," pulled him back from the edge. Her care, born of instinct and compassion, blossomed into a connection that defied their differences in age and baggage. From late-night coffees to rain-soaked walks, they wove a bond through shared silences, sandwiches under awnings, and visits to Elena's dementia-stricken mother, where love was measured in patience and presence. Their story teaches us that vulnerability isn't a weakness, but a bridge to something real, a life where scars, grief, and exhaustion are met with understanding. In a world that demands perfection, Liam and Elena remind us to choose each other daily, in the small acts, a thermos of coffee, a fixed light, a hand held through the rain. Their unspoken promises, built on trust rather than vows, show that love is showing up even when the future is uncertain. Let this move you. Have you ever found strength in someone's quiet presence during your darkest moment? Share your story in the comments. I'm eager to hear how connection has grounded you. If tales of resilience and tender love light your soul, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and join our community. Let's keep cherishing the moments that make us whole, one heartfelt story at a time.